Hello friends and new viewers alike to the next installment of Slicing the Pie, the series where we dissect and discuss the shards and wedges of Magic the Gathering. In today's episode, we'll be tackling the ever-mysterious Wedge of Sultai, a wedge that started out as an enigma to me and has evolved into an ideal I think I'll be taking with me for the rest of my life. If you couldn't tell by my voice, I can't wait to get into it. And I appreciate your patience, as this one took a while for me to put together. So sit down, get comfortable, and let's talk Sultai, the wedge of ambition rooted in perspective. Sultai is a wedge I believe most people have a very narrow view of, myself included, at least before I made this video. Because of this, it becomes doubly important to set up our framework so that we at least have a guideline to go off of. For my new viewers, the framework is a way of setting up a basis for our discussion by breaking down the aspects present and absent in the wedge or shard. From there, we will have a solid foundation and understanding to base all future discussions on. Now, don't worry, I will expand on each step as we go. And as we do, everything will start to fall into place. The first step, and most important piece of construction, is talking about the allied pair within the wedge. You see, present within every wedge are 3 colors, 2 allied and 1 enemy. What's important to understand here is that the allied pairs will have the most sway within the combination, as they are already 2 colors that can more easily find common ground. Now, this isn't to say that the enemy color has no say, of course not. But in this regard, it's more of an outside influence. In the case of Sultai, our 3 colors are blue, black, and green, with blue and black as the allied pair. So let's break down this combination to find out more about the wedge of Sultai. Blue-black is the combination of manipulation, control, and most of all, ambition. It takes blue's need for constant improvement and iteration, and black's insatiable desire to obtain the power to achieve its every need, together becoming a force that is never satisfied with what it has and never questions what is right. This combination is also the pair most comfortable with dark and forbidden magic, or any tools that can be used to further its ambitions, tools others might be too morally object to utilize. So what does this tell us about Sultai? Well, of course, it shows us that there is nothing off limits to this wedge, whether that be morally or functionally. It will be a wedge that knows what it wants and will go to any length to get there. Next, it is important to lay out the beliefs of the enemy color present. In the case of Sultai, that is green. This is because, while an outsider, it will still influence and add nuance to the combination's philosophies. So, what does green believe in? And what does it bring to the table? Well, green is the color of acceptance of its place within its given ecosystem. It looks to the past for answers and solidifies its future in traditions. Green is the color that does not look to change itself or the world around it, as everything and everyone is perfect the way it is. So, what does this influence have on blue and black? And what can we infer about Sultai because of it? Well, green's influence adds perspective to the combination. It's not just about the future or what it needs. There are bigger forces at play. Now, of course, this will not change Sultai's forward momentum, but it will open its eyes to the world around it. As you can see, Sultai is remarkably interesting indeed. What sort of mindset is created when these colors come together? Well, to get to that point, we have to finish the final part of our foundation. As you see, to truly know a wedge or shard, it is quite important to reflect on the colors that are absent as well, as these missing ideals will place the final pieces of our puzzle in place. In the case of Sultai, our missing colors are red and white. So then, let's take a closer look and see what the absence of these colors tells us about this wedge. Let's begin with red. Red is the color of emotion, pure and simple. It is the heart that does not question its actions, for better or worse. So, with the lack of red mana present, we know that Sultai is guided by another force. It instead is guided by its mind, its desires, and a grander plan. Next is white. White is the color of peace and order. With a lack of white mana, we know that Sultai does not concern itself with the moral boundaries that others place on themselves. Black sees only itself, blue sees only the future, and green sees only the world and not the people. I bet you're already starting to understand Sultai, and a philosophy is beginning to form in your head. Well, hold on to that creative spark and let me know in the comments what you might imagine when you think of Sultai. I'd love to hear your perspective. That said, let's dive into 3 ideas that I formed while digging into the potential philosophies of the Wedge of Sultai, beginning with power through manipulation. There's no way to talk about a combination that holds both blue and black within it without bringing up ideas of manipulation, control, and of the power taken from forbidden places. And yes, that even happens when green is involved. In fact, green places this control in the space of what is ancient, transforming it into a wedge that looks to the dark corners of nature for what it needs on the path to what it desires. We see this sort of perversion of nature taking place when green is combined with either blue or black, as either of those pairs look to how they can take what nature is and bend it to either something new or something of use. They do this by either forcing evolution or by looking to the end of nature's cycle, that which has died and begun to rot, and breathe life into something new by either staving off death or through the transformation of that which has died. You start to see that Sultai then takes all of these aspects and manipulates all that lives, all that rots, and all that has died, creating new forms from each place within nature's cycle. It, of all wedges and shards covered, is the most focused on how it can manipulate that which is discarded, forgotten, or forbidden. So how does this come to be with the colors present? Well, let's take a look. In blue, there is a need to utilize all at its disposal, always seeking new tools to achieve its ever-changing goals. In black, you have the amoral outlook that is willing to act on any avenue that will facilitate its needs. Finally, green provides the tools that blue and black seek. It is nature's gifts ready to be used. It is long-forgotten magic, as old as the gods. Now, I hope you're beginning to form a picture of what I speak. Sultai is the combination that finds power and truth in dark and ancient corners. It's the forgotten places where the old gods whisper, the dead moan, and the rotting creatures howl. And if these places strike fear in you, then perhaps Sultai is not your wedge. For a weak heart has no place where even the shadows fear tread. Okay, well, that was fun being super dramatic, but hey, this is by no means the only side of Sultai. And in fact, this is one that you may have expected me to cover. So let's start to take things in a direction that is less about the dark actions taken and more of a broad outlook that you could apply to your own life. A sort of perspective that allows you to see things more clearly. And that is an ideal I call perspective through acceptance. Sultai is a combination that is able to manifest a clear path. What do I mean by this? Well, to put it plainly, Sultai has within it the combination of colors that represent the flow of humanity's existence. And in that, an understanding. It is able to see things clearly. In fact, more clearly, it would claim, than any other wedge or shard. You see, in Sultai, we have green, the color that is the basis of life, the foundation of all that is. Then we have blue, the color that manifests itself as the mode in which we desire to always press forward, fueled by curiosity. At the end of the track, we have black, the color of finality, death, and the eventual end of all things. What we have then is an understanding of the process in which the human condition is laid out for us like a map. But what good is this? Well, Sultai is able to gain clarity by appreciating what has come before it, by marching ever forward, and by being at peace with its eventual end. It can then act in a manner that is free from question. It's the ability to almost see things from far above, with a clarity that is mostly reserved for gods. In knowing this and appreciating its unwavering nature, it is able to utilize the full extent of all that has come before and all that will be, in a manner that facilitates its ambitions. It is a mindset that can build upon the traditions of its forefathers, march forward with a clear conscience, and finally be at peace when it all eventually ends. All while knowing that it gave everything it could, a life with no regrets. So, what does this sort of philosophy mean then, for you and for me? And why is it important? Well, think of it this way. First, with a clear outlook as to the course of our lives, we can be free of all doubts as to the meaning and purpose of our existence. If all roads lead to an eventual end, then it becomes a matter of getting the most out of what your life can be. With green in mind, we can look to proven paths to find our way. What I mean by this is that in philosophies and traditions that have worked so well for others, we may have a stronger start. Then we move on to blue, which fills us with purpose and drives us to be the best we can be, through curiosity and the need to improve. Finally, in black we are given the knowledge of death and its finality. There is no second chance, and so in that we must make the most of our lives and accept the hand of the reaper when it comes. Do not fear death, for death is unchanging. Fear instead a life not lived. I honestly hope this side of Sultai gives you a bit of inspiration, or at the very least, something to think about. But we're not done. Let's cover one more philosophy of Sultai before we close things off, and that is rooted ambition. One of Blue-Black's biggest strengths and weaknesses is its unrelenting focus on its ambitions. It always has an eye to what it wants, and in every action it makes, it moves ever closer towards its goals. Now, of course, this is a good thing, but the issue is that this starts to create a personality that is narcissistic and psychopathic, one that only sees others and the world around it as a means to an end. If you take Black's focus on self and Blue's cold calculated outlook, you begin to create a way of thinking that has a sort of tunnel vision, where there's only the self and the goal. This is where green comes in and helps Sultai along to be, well, more grounded. Green takes this unrelenting ambition and adds a wider view of things and creates a sense of calm and peace. But like I always say, let's go to the colors present to get a better picture of what I'm saying. In black, there's a need to do what is right for you, to take care of your needs first. In blue is the desire to improve at a constant rate. And in green, we have the perspective and harmony to slow all of those things down. With this mindset in place, Sultai is able to still act on its convictions, but it's able to know when to consider its impact, and not just the world around it, but how its actions shape itself as a person. What I mean is that if we're just blue-black going it alone, we would find ourselves more and more detached from the world and people around us, and eventually we would succumb to our more narcissistic and unfeeling side. Think of what sort of a shell of a person you become when all you are is your ambitions and you're consumed by your goals, with no time given to stop and breathe, to smell the flowers, to find peace. Now, don't get me wrong, ambition is important, taking care of yourself is important, but if all you have is yourself and ambition, then your humanity will surely wear down to nothing until all you are is a soulless person who only hungers for money and power. There's more to our lives than that, and green is here to at least tell you, go for a walk, open your mind, and find value in things that are less tangible. Sultai is an interesting case, in that when it applies to more fantasy settings, it has a way of getting ahead of itself and acting almost like a supervillain. But if we apply it to real-world thinking, we can begin to see what power it has. It's a philosophy that is driven and curious, but is still able to be at peace due to its unique perspective. It is a philosophy that views the breadth of its life and in turn lives a life free of regret. To me, Sultai is a way of looking at things and seeing value in both the cultivation of self and the joy found in that which nature provides. for there is value to be found in places others might be too afraid to look. Well, thanks for checking out my Sultai video. I'm very happy to be finally done this one, and I do appreciate the patience that you've all given me in between each of these videos. And I'm really happy with how this one turned out. If you want to stay up to date with everything that I'm working on, be sure to go down into the description and either join the Discord so you can be part of the conversation all the time, or as well you can follow me on Twitter and stay up to date with everything that's going on with video making and the like. I'll keep you posted as to when the final episode of Slicing the Pie comes out, so stay tuned to the channel, and with that, I'll catch you in the multiverse. Bye.